We are going to start learning goal 6 now, which is actually, interestingly enough, something I learned when I was in high school. But we're using
Yes.
different mathematical properties, things that actually you probably already do in your head, but we're going to give a name to it so that you will see what that is really called. So we're using different mathematical properties to compute mental math, so make sure you write that down. The first one that we are going to talk about is the commutative property of addition. That is very, very wordy.
It is.
But basically, all that means is that a plus b is the same thing as b plus a. Or 2 plus 3, same thing as 3 plus 2. That's all it means. Now, there's a commutative property of addition. There's also one for multiplication. You don't need that right now, but just those two. It doesn't work for subtraction, doesn't work for division. So that's all that means is that you can flip-flop the add-ins, the numbers that you're adding together, and you'll still get the same answer.
And maybe even if you had like a string of numbers that you had to add, you could move those in all different directions, and it doesn't matter.
As long as it's all addition, you can move them wherever you want. So if I look at this one, this looks a little bit like, whoa, that's a lot of numbers. But if I look at these numbers here, I've got, where'd my little mouse go? Oh, it's not showing up. I've got 0.5, 0.25, 0.38, 0.75, 0.5. Well, I know 0.25 and 0.75. I'm thinking money. So I'm going to group these together to help me with my mental math. That together equals 1 whole. And then 1/2 and 1/2 again, 1 whole. So without me even having to write these all out in a nice straight line, add them all up, I mean, I can just use this to mentally solve it. So I end up with 2 and 38/100ths when I just put them all together. So this property is all about being able to move the numbers around in addition. It doesn't matter what order they're in. Big idea, changing the order does not change the sum. So keep that in mind. And this one is one for you to try. So pause and try it, and we're just going to use that same technique we just used with decimals and whole numbers. Now we're going to try it with fractions. So don't freak out when you see this. Look at the fractions, look for those common denominators, see if there's any way that you can move these numbers around and then put them together to add it mentally. You should not have to go through and do anything to this besides use your brain. So if you're having to rewrite it and find common denominators and do all that nonsense, then you're making it too hard.
Yes.
Okay? This one you can group together. So try it, and I will give you the answer in just a second. Okay, so if I look at how I've grouped it, we've got 4/5 I just left where it was, but I was looking at the other numbers, and 1/5 with 4/5 goes together to give me a whole. So I just put those together. So that's 1 whole that I've got in my head, and then I noticed the 3/4 and 1/4 were already side by side. So I put those together, I get another whole, and then I just have 5/17 just left off to the side. So if I add up 1 plus 1, 2, 2 and 5/17.
There you go.
So hopefully you got that too. So that is the commutative commutative property of addition. Yeah.
Oh, now I have to say another hard word.
I know. Now it's your turn.
So the next thing that we want you to write in your journal is this other property of addition. It's called associative. And the big idea with associative is you can see right here we have A plus B sort of grouped together plus C equals A plus B and C grouped together. So the only thing that we're doing here is figuring out how to group up the letters or numbers. So
and again, this only works if you've got all of the same symbol.
yes.
If you're mixing symbols like addition and subtraction all in one and one's in a parentheses, there's a specific order you have to do, and you don't need to worry about that right now. But this works right now. It's associative property of addition, as it works when it's all addition.
Yes. So now let's look at some numbers just so it makes sense. So we have 1 and 2 grouped together plus 3 equals 1, and 2 and 3 grouped together. So looking here, that's really saying like 3 plus 3
So the
equals
numbers
1
didn't
plus
change.
5.
In your first one, the numbers didn't change. You just moved the parentheses. So we're telling you, did we talk about what the parentheses means? We might have talked about it before, but it just means do it first.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So now we can see that 3 plus 3 equals 6, 1 plus 5 equals 6. So they equal each other. Once again, changing the order of how you add things or group them up doesn't change anything. So just something, and it'll just help you with mental math, because as you can see in this next problem here, we have 2 plus 7 plus 3, but some of us might be thinking, well, 7 and 3 is just nicer to group together. And so we can try to form those groups to add numbers of tens or hundreds or just easier numbers to add up in your head.
Right.
So we should get an answer of 12 easily. You can see that. So now, once again, this might look hard at first. We have 2 eighths plus 6 eighths plus 1/2, but we just want you to take a moment to think about, well, how can I regroup this to add these up much easier? So take a moment to do that, and then we'll show you and make sure that you know how to group these up. So looking here, hopefully a lot of you noticed that 2 eighths plus 6 eighths would be easier to group together and add up, and that equals 1 whole. And then you just have that half again. So right away, I know that my answer should be 1.5. And so we group those, and there's our answer. So now that you have a good idea of these two different properties of addition, what we would like you to do is try these 2 problems in your journal. Just number them 1. You're going to see, like, at first these look like a lot of really big numbers, but once again, if you think about how to move and group them using the commutative and associative properties, you should be okay. It shouldn't be that tricky.
No.
Same with 2 here. We see decimals again, but you can do it if you find the numbers to group together, and it should be just like that. So good luck, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow.